should have put that. Oh, hello, Bells Falls. Here we are, unawares yet again.
With our pregame chat.
On our pregame chat. It's September 19th, and this is the feed, and I'm with Marty and Justin Garner, and we're going to be talking about hemp oil today. Hemp oil with a question mark. How's that?
Hemp oil with a question mark.
Yes. Anyway. Before we get to that, Marty's going to give us some local events.
Yeah, today is actually the day for Overflow the Opera House. So if you have some, extra things in your house, canned goods, foodstuffs, even like things like toiletries, extra shampoos, anything like that, throw it in a bag and go down to the Opera House. You don't even have to get out of your car. They'll come and they'll pick it up. They're trying to fill the Opera House, overflow the Opera House. They want to be able to put a bag of things for our place drop-in center in every single seat in the Opera House.
Great.
So
and I know you have a bag already ready.
I do have a bag ready to go.
Maybe a couple bags.
Couple of bags. I think probably once I bag up the box that we have, we're probably going to have about 3 bags. So that's from 7 a.m. to 5:30 today. Again, the money goes to, the donations go to our place. Everything's for our place to help fill their food shelves because we are coming into the season here.
Yeah, it's fall
season. It's just harder.
Around the bend.
And then this weekend, again, reminding you that at Main Street Arts this weekend, it's Lights Camera Auction, which is a big benefit for Main Street Arts. The interesting thing is it's not just your run-of-the-mill kind of boring auction. It's actually entertainment in between the auction items.
Yeah, so it's sort of like a cabaret.
Kind of like, yeah, it's
Sounds
a good
like
term.
fun.
And make sure to bid on my mushroom foray gift certificate.
Oh, awesome!
Oh, really? Yeah,
Well, shameless
great.
plug.
Shameless plug, but that's great.
Hey,
I didn't
well,
realize
are
that
you guys
was on
going?
No, I wasn't planning on going, but I did donate a foray. So.
Oh, good.
So here we are.
So here we are. We have Justin along from Sweet Flag Medicinals. I always forget to give you the plug on Sweet Flag Medicinals.
Thanks for having me.
And he's sort of our guru on natural remedies, natural things to do, maybe alternative medicines. And there's been a big move in the country in the last, and not just in our country, it seems like English-speaking countries, to look at the medicinal properties of hemp and marijuana. And that's one of the things we want to talk about is just sort of be able to give some definitions and distinguish between one and the other, because some things right now are legal in the whole United States, and it's not even, you don't need a medical marijuana card, you don't need anything, and you can use some of these products. And then other things are still considered illegal by the federal government, but are legal in certain states.
Right, a patchwork of various local laws that is very hard to navigate.
So you're going to give us some definitions. You're going to define some of the key terms, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, part of the thing we were discussing beforehand is that the term hemp, typically hemp referred to the cannabis sativa plant that was grown with very little fertilizer in a crowded field where the plants would grow nice and tall, and you would then rot the plants after you harvested them for the fibers inside, so hemp rope. Like those old sailing ships used to have some ungodly number of tons of hemp on board, like just in the ropes that they used, so typically that's what hemp was. But then I think it was 2015, the U.S. Farm Bill had a rider tacked on that defined hemp as any cannabis product that contained less than 0.3% THC. So THC being the psychoactive component of marijuana. Mm-hmm. So what this change has meant is that in the meantime, we've found that, it's not just THC in marijuana, but around 100 other cannabinoids, similar compounds. But THC is the only one, or the main one, that creates a psychoactive effect. CBD, which is cannabidiol, is a compound, a non-psychoactive compound found in hemp that has garnered the most research regarding its potential benefits. And so as this compound of cannabis has gained publicity and notoriety, breeders of cannabis have gone from almost exclusively breeding for a higher THC content, which is basically what they've been doing in California since the 70s, is breeding for stronger and stronger, more psychoactive marijuana. All of a sudden, there was now a market for this CBD non-psychoactive compound, and so now there's been breeding for varieties with high CBD contents and
low THC, yeah,
and low THC or moderate THC, and because people have been breeding for the high, and not necessarily, it wasn't with access to, testing equipment. That's for the true. Most part, for most of these
testing.
years.
I was going to say there was
a lot of human
test
right.
groups. But
Bioassay, as it's known, was the only way. So,
Bioassay.
So people, were breeding based on these bioassays forever. And then we come up with, okay, here's this CBD that has all these benefits. And they actually had to go back to what are known as landrace strains of cannabis. So the type of cannabis that the Thais were growing forever and the Afghanis were growing forever, just the traditional, not wild, but close
cultivated,
to.
Yeah.
Cultivated.
Heirloom, would that be they talk about heirloom tomatoes?
Yeah, heirloom varieties.
Haven't been messed with.
Right,
Yeah.
right. They, it's like if you were to go to Thailand and check out what they were growing, so people would take samples of that genetics and then look around and, find strains that happen to have some CBD in them and then breed them over generations to keep increasing that content. Right. So now we have two types of hemp. We have hemp that's grown for the fibers, the traditional kind, but then we also have these plants that look just like psychoactive cannabis plants, except that except that the resin, so this center picture here, those little glands, the crystally looking things on there are called trichomes, and instead of being full of THC, they're full of CBD, but it looks just like any other cannabis. And so of course for in jurisdictions where psychoactive cannabis is still illegal, this must be just great for law enforcement to figure out what, it's like.
Because is there literally no way to tell? Until you...
Well, you'd have to test.
Only with testing. And so, when I've purchased, just raw hemp flowers, they actually come with a certificate of analysis, attached. Just
oh, really?
Because that way, then, if law enforcement needs to look at it, you can be like, okay, here's the document. But, so that creates a lot of confusion in the marketplace as well, because, what is hemp oil or and then there's to add to the confusion, there's hemp seed oil, which is known as as an omega-3 fatty acid supplement that you can buy in the refrigerator section of the co-op, and that's that's made from the seeds, and that's not what we're talking about when we're talking about CBD type oil.
Because I've been reading there's hemp seed oil, hemp oil, and full spectrum hemp oil that's made from the whole plant or from
Right. So even though CBD is the most well-known of the non-psychoactive compounds, almost all these CBD products are going to have other cannabinoids from the plant. And that's, and as long as it is less than 0.3% THC, you're not running afoul of that Farm Bill definition of hemp.
So it'd be legal in all 50 states. You can buy it on the internet. You can
mail
buy it through the mailing through the postal system, and there's nothing illegal about it.
Right, except there's still these. There's still these weird things. The DEA announced that they were going to track CBD products like a Schedule I drug a couple years ago, and I don't know what that really means because they don't. They don't have the jurisdiction to arrest someone over it, but it's created this murky area that makes investors wary. The whole cannabis industry, psychoactive and non-psychoactive, there's a lot of growing pains because there's big money in it, but then there's also in a lot of states where cannabis is legal, it's still all cash business. So these people are dealing with millions of dollars in a safe, and they can't bank, and they can't do normal payroll and stuff like that. So
do you also think that because there's big money in it, there's a risk of it being over marketed, we tend to over market, or it not to be? I know when you buy any kind of supplement, because right now are they considered supplements? Is it?
It's being sold basically under DSHEA, the Dietary Supplement Health Education.
So there's no regulation on that. So if you're buying, say you buy vitamins and it says it has X, X IUs of vitamin D. There's not necessarily anybody regulating to make sure it has that amount. Do you think you're going to
Well, I mean,
the
there's
same problem with CBD oil?
there is regulation on the supplement industry. It's just the regulation isn't to the same level as the pharmaceutical industry. And so, yes, brand to brand with CBD supplements, some are over, some are under what they, the label claims. That's a huge thing. And, because there's a lot of money in it, there's a lot of claims being made.
That was my next question. Is there a lot of over marketing as in like a miracle?
And I think we always have a tendency to go that way. And especially, one of my biggest problems with CBD right now is the cost of it. Like, it's very expensive, for people to take it. I mean, most of the products on the market, it might cost you, $100 a month
If you were to take it.
for a CBD product. Taking it for, and it does have a lot of significant benefits. The most well-researched is the anti-epileptic benefit. This gained a lot of attention a few years ago. There was a strain of cannabis called Charlotte's Web that had 20 times the CBD to THC. So it did have some THC, like it wasn't completely devoid of it. But the extracts of it were really effective in childhood epileptics that are not well treated by most Western drugs, and the Western drugs have a lot of side effects. And so there were actually like Vermonters camping out in Colorado to have access to this, and because of that, the Vermont legislature even made an exception. At that time, Vermont's medical marijuana laws didn't allow the importation of any new strains from outside the state. You could only obtain your marijuana seeds from other marijuana growers in the system. And so they made an exception to allow that strain to get imported into the state so that kids here could have access to it.
But again, that was it was from the actual recreational marijuana industry, the get high industry, that sort of morphed over. Was Charlotte's Web originally bred to be? And was that where they were going when they started it, or?
I'm sorry.
It might
I
be
think
too-
it was.
too
I mean, it
complex.
was definitely part of the, psychoactive cannabis market in a way. But
And then people were like, why is this? I mean, it really works on this too.
right. But I
Yeah.
mean, part of it is though too is that a lot of these, cannabis activists going quite a ways back have been touting the medical benefits of it for a long time. So, even though the main market forces have been about getting high, maybe there have definitely been subsets of that population who have been interested in what it can do for cancer patients and what it can do. And so, I think it sprang out of, that whole countercultural place, and now we've gone to the other extreme of marijuana that has no high at all. That's just completely non-psychoactive. Although, I mean, non-psychoactive, but there's definitely a marked anti-anxiety effect, like that can just be felt as a calmness potentially. But there's none of the other effects, the typical THC type effects. So I guess we should talk about what some of the benefits someone might see for taking it.
That's right.
So sleep stuff, I think is a thing, an issue that a lot of people have.
We were just talking about that in my class this morning.
And I've seen it be quite effective for helping with sleep. Both getting to sleep and staying asleep. And also in anxiety, it can be really good for having a calming effect. One of the interesting things about why these cannabinoids even work in the body at all is that we have an entire system of receptors called the endocannabinoid system.
Oh, really?
Which these substances bind to. So in the body, we have a compound called anandamide that's our endogenous. That's like the compound we make to attach to these receptors. But THC and CBD fit like keys in a lock into these. So, so it's not just it's not haphazard that they actually have an effect. These receptors are all over the body.
It's some environmental thing that we had come across in our evolution that made us think that allows this to happen.
Right,
So,
right, and
yeah.
or that the cannabis plant figured out, hey, if I make this compound, I can get
Yeah.
another
One of-
species to propagate me, or that's kind of like
that's true.
you
I
know,
like that way of thinking.
yeah, that the plant is,
Is
that's
the
kind of
plant
like
controlling us, or are we growing the plant?
right, exactly, because it's pretty successfully growing all over the world,
Yes.
so it's like, who's controlling who here, but yeah, so the THC, the way it triggers the cannabinoid, the CB1 receptor, which creates the psychoactivity, whereas CBD works more on the CB2 receptors. It doesn't have the psychoactivity, but has these anti-anxiety, anti-inflammatory. There's even potential for anti-cancer benefits as
Yeah, that's
well.
what they're saying.
And there's this whole idea that some people are lacking in the endogenous cannabinoids like anandamide, and that compounds like CBD help to modulate that system. So sleep and anxiety issues would be two major.
And pain. Actually, that's my personal experience has been I've used a CDB salve on my arthritis in my ankle, and it really,
And
for me,
pain.
it works.
And
yeah.
pain. And
Does
and
does it work on the inflammation? Is that why it helps with the pain?
It
or how
works-
does it work?
both on the inflammation and by modulating pain signaling. So it has a twofold benefit, and like the non-psychoactivity is nice in that look at how our go-to for pain, opioids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Look at the dangers of that
Yes.
that we're experiencing, and it's like so other ways to treat pain, particularly chronic pain or something like arthritis, like. You go to the doctor and get painkillers for the rest of your life for
Yeah.
arthritis, not a good idea, And we've learned that the hard way that,
Yeah.
We
And
can't.
there's, even if you're thinking about just almost nondescript pain relievers like Tylenol or ibuprofen, eventually they start affecting your either your liver or your stomach. That you just
Yeah.
can only take so much.
Because that was actually my next question is with like the CBD oils for anxiety and for sleep. It seems like whenever you take a pharmaceutical, like an anxiety medication or a sleeping pill, like either mainstream or prescribed, there's always a series of side effects that then sometimes cause you to have to take another pill for that side effect, and the next thing you know, you've got a list of pills like
A drawer full
like
of
a
pills
drawer
that
full
you're
of
taking.
pills. So are there any side effects that would cause you to have to take another, or is it pretty?
No, there's not. And,
innocuous?
like a lot of the pharmaceutical sleeping pills and stuff will have like a drowsiness in the morning and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And there's nothing like that with CBD, which is nice. And I mean, in general, cannabis is relatively free of those kind of like hangover withdrawal symptoms, both psychoactive and non-psychoactive. So, it's quite safe. And as most people know, like the cannabinoids, you would have a real hard time killing yourself with them. You'd have to take ungodly amounts of cannabis in a very short period of time. It's never been done to anyone's knowledge of actually dying from cannabis toxicity. So
Yeah.
the safety profile.
There are a lot of jokes about that.
Right.
You line up a guy with 40 joints and he does 3, and then he's either falling asleep or he's eating a chocolate cake.
Might be speaking from experience, I think.
Well, and I mean, there is now, there's been a big trend towards a lot of concentrating of cannabis products, both CBD and THC, and I think down the line we may run into some issues with those, like where the THC from ounces and ounces of marijuana is concentrated into a few grams, and then people
then
are
something-
inhaling that all at once.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
you're starting to go from the more concentrated you get it, seems like there's bound to be potential issues that you're going to be dealing
Right,
with
exactly.
down the line.
And I think part of I guess as far as side effects go, I don't think there's been any really scientific studies. I don't think you can say there are side effects or there aren't side
I'm just
effects,
curious.
but it's just that it's all anecdotal. It's nothing that's someone has sat down and said, well, if you study this over time, you might have this sort of damage.
So you don't get this like list, like when you get.
Yeah,
you
you
get-
don't
you
get,
get
you're
a
not
drug,
going
you
to
have
get
this
that
list
because
of it might cause
first of all, the
everything
people are
from-
trying to sell it, so they're not going to get. They don't want. And then I don't think that there's been any sort of things, any clinical trials, let's call it, that would say,
Right.
well, what is, and that, but and then it depends on the delivery method too. If you're smoking, whatever you're doing,
Right, or vaporizing.
yeah, then it
And-
could cause lung
I guess that's my
damage
next.
or-
I guess that's my next question: is what are the ways to ingest CBD oil? Like, what are I'm
Well,
doing-
most commonly it's extracted and put into some sort of other oil base or powder base and put into a capsule. So like often like the tinctures of it will be like an extract dissolved into olive oil or even hemp seed oil to be
Yeah,
even
yeah.
more confusing. CBD oil in other
Yeah,
hemp
so
oil.
it's like
So that's an off, and the tinctures are really, I think, quite nice because you can adjust the milligram amount that you're taking. Like you might take a higher dose at night to help you with sleep, and then smaller doses periodically throughout the day to help with inflammation in the joints
or
And
anxiety
you
or
use-
anxiety.
Yeah.
So that's and then there's topical products for pain relief of particular areas, like what Mike was talking about, and then. There are also concentrates that can be vaporized, and those. So like with taking a capsule, it's going to take longer to kick in, but it's going to last longer in the body. So potentially, depending on like if someone has a lot of issues with both staying and getting to sleep, they might take a capsule at bedtime and then vaporize some for immediate effect, and
Yeah.
then the capsule will then kick in as they sleep and help keep them asleep. So there can be benefits, and particularly like with the anxiety, if someone's got really serious like situational anxiety, a vaporizer might end up being a good way to go because they can dose it as needed and it'll kick in quite quickly. Some of the same reasons that marijuana has been smoked or vaporized, that it's easier to adjust the dose to exactly what someone wants because of the fast onset, as opposed to like everyone's heard horror stories
about the edibles.
of edibles where it's like, oh, these taste good, and then next thing you know, you're practically psychotic from.
That was my
you
next
know,
question, because isn't the CBD oil it being one of the new ways of marketing it is putting it in food and
Oh, it's-
drinks and
Well,
someone
yeah.
in
And
class
so
was
it can be
talking about
infused in everything.
a candy
Yeah.
bar. They bought a $20 candy bar that had CBD oil in it.
Oh yeah, and you
Well-
can get shots of CBD added to your beers at some bars and coffee shops. The interesting thing is it's very rarely seen as just the raw hemp flowers. You rarely, because, and I think the interesting thing about that is that because when the raw hemp flowers looks a lot like any other cannabis product,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
just looks like illegal marijuana or legal marijuana or whatever.
Yeah,
There's not really much of a difference. But it's very rarely used in that method, and part of the reason is that the cannabinoids need to be heated to a certain temperature
Oh,
to
to release?
be active orally.
Yeah.
So any sort of edible product, whether it's a THC or CBD product, it needs to go through a process called decarboxylation.
Mm-hmm.
Which now, when marijuana is burned, that's happening as
Like
it's
that,
burning.
yeah.
So it's not needed in that case. But that decarboxylation process involves heating the substance to around 250 degrees for about half an hour to convert the compounds. And so that starts to get into more than
Yeah,
just
you're not
the
gonna see
typical consumer. Oh yeah, I'm gonna
just
you know
do this.
how do you get it into yourself?
Yeah,
So a lot of this is happening, at the level of the company, and then you're just seeing it in a capsule or whatever, like any other supplement.
Or I was just seeing that Canada's going legal on October 17th. It's the first time a whole country has gone legal.
Yeah, and you know what they're already saying about it in the U.S.? That if anyone who works in the marijuana industry in Canada, they won't ever be allowed here at all. And
Ever.
even if they're going from Canada to a pot legal state, they won't be allowed to bring it across the border without getting fined. I mean,
Well, the interesting thing I heard, though, is that Coca-Cola is actually negotiating with Canada now to do CBD infused beverages.
really?
That they'll do a
You
national.
were talking about
yeah.
that in class this
And
week,
so
too,
it's like,
So Coca-Cola knows what's going on.
And I guess the
so.
stocks on Coca-Cola have just risen this week because of this news came out that that's what they're doing, and it just
Well,
seems.
they got so much bad press from people, the sugar content,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they're trying to recoup. So of course, that's I guess that's my kind of my concern is that all of a sudden something that really probably is a good thing done properly, it's going to get over marketed and thrown into everything, and then not
like everything else.
like everything.
Yeah, and of
else.
course, if you're
Yeah.
putting in Coca-Cola, so
Yeah.
you're like hooked on the sugar and the
That's
caffeine,
what I'm
and then they
saying.
throw the
That's what I'm
CBD
saying.
in
But
there.
that might be a good and it might not be Coca-Cola.
Oh.
It might not be the actual
That's
Coca-Cola.
what
It
I'm
might
saying.
be another beverage.
But we
because
are
it's the,
running extremely
we're running
low
low
on
Oh,
on
geez.
time. We were thinking about having you back again. I think this is another one of those. This is one of these things we just scratch the surface
Yeah.
of, and then we get away from. Because I wanted to talk about the other thing I heard is that the largest market for these products is actually in older people who are looking for alternatives in their health care, specifically pain relief and arthritis
Right.
relief and everything, as opposed to the our conventional medical system.
So I
Definitely.
think that probably coming up next week on the feed
Is
will
Justin.
have Justin
Maybe part
with
two.
Part two.
Stay tuned to the feed because this is really interesting stuff.
It's coming out, and I think it's something that we really need to inform people. People need to understand what it is, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, definitely.
next
Because
week on
it's
the
really
feed.
confusing.
all right, Alex has given us the big signal.
He's giving us the big signal. We'll see you
Bye.
next week. And thanks for coming by.
They didn't really come.
That's it, folks, for the feed. Be sure to catch us every Wednesdays at 7:30 a.m. Also, find us on Facebook at Fact TV or tell us what you think. thefeed8@gmail.com. And don't forget to watch the feed online at www.fact8.com.